to start, can you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Travis Thacker from Carl's Pro Band. We are a local family-owned music store here in Bloomington Normal. My dad is Carl Thacker, so him and I are repair technicians and business partners. And then my older sister Shannon is our store manager. So we're a true family-owned and operated store. We've been in the area since 1994. My dad started as a repair technician apprentice at a local music store when he was 16 years old, and worked his way up through there. He started in the mid to late 70s, and then he was there until 1994. And then in 94, he left there and actually took the position at Illinois State as the full-time repair technician. So he maintained the 400 plus band instruments there at ISU, and then also started our shop as kind of a small home-based business. He had a lot of clientele that was calling from his previous employment and wanting him to still fix their instruments and that kind of thing. So set up a home shop in our basement of our family home and started there. And then again, started at ISU in 94. And it was a few months later that he started our shop. And then a couple years later, I started apprenticing with him when I was 15. So this was like late 90s. I think it was 97 or so. And really enjoyed the work and liked it. So I decided this is what I wanted to do with my career. So I went to ISU and got a music business major there, and kind of knew the path that I was going, but I was still kind of heavy on the music side as well. So I was in wind symphony and jazz band and applied studio, all that kind of stuff. So, and then I took a bunch of business courses. It was kind of before they had a music business defined major there. So it was more of a contract major. Now it's a little bit more spelled out, but it worked well. And so through that time, my dad worked at ISU up until 2013, I think, is when he retired. So he was there for about 20 years and then retired. He still works full-time at our shop. And then after he left, ISU decided to contract all of their instrument repairs to our shop. So they replaced my dad with Tim Schneider's there. He kind of handles not so much on the repair side, but some of the other duties that my dad had while he was there was checking out the instruments, managing the lockers, and a lot of that stuff. So Tim took on that responsibility, and now he has other responsibilities like at CPA and all that stuff. But so my dad was down there in Cook Hall in room 10. And so we have a pretty dense history over at ISU of, my dad was there for 20 years. And then even prior to that, when he was at the other music store, he did a lot of work for ISU and for faculty and professors and that kind of thing. So we've been around the inventory for quite a while there, and now that we're still maintaining it to this day. So we've got, almost 30, 40 years of history there at ISU. So we know the inventory pretty well in and out. And me being a student there too, on that side, I kind of got another look at things. So yeah, that's kind of who we are and what we do. So we specialize in high-end quality repair, and we also do sales and lessons and rentals and that kind of thing as well. So
Cool, that's great. Glad to hear that you've been part of ISU and involved in ISU for so long, and we're certainly happy and glad to continue that.
yeah, us too.
So what are some things that you see just for general maintenance? What are the most common repairs that you see that maybe we could do a better job of knowing how to work the instrument a little better, or how to travel with the instrument a little bit better? What are some things there that you see that we could be more aware of?
Yeah, definitely. So as part of our duties to repair the instruments, most instruments that are eligible go on what we call a maintenance agreement. So that means we cover them for the whole year. So for brass instruments, we do ultrasonic cleanings. Woodwind instruments get what we call a playing condition, which is like an annual maintenance. We also ultrasonically clean the mouthpieces and all that kind of thing. So we see everything from basic maintenance all the way to repair. So on that side of things, some of the things that we see that are the most common would be the bigger, more cumbersome instruments like sousaphones tend to get the most damage just because of their size and their weight and everything. But a few of the things there that we see, a lot of case damage. So just being really gentle with the cases, and especially if you're offloading them from a truck, not slamming the cases down on the pavement, or if you're, a lot of those cases have casters where you can pull the case behind you. Try not to, ramp those over big curbs and things like that, because what happens is those wheels and the housings that they go into, they get crushed, and the cases are a hard plastic. So after they're crushed beyond repair, you're looking at replacement. And, we just did a couple of those that are almost $600 a piece for a case. So it's something to keep in mind. So those kind of things, as far as transporting them, just being real careful to not slam the cases around and slam them into walls and things like that, just because the more damaged the case becomes, the higher the likelihood of the instrument becoming damaged at that point. So as far as that goes, just, being careful loading them and unloading them. Also, if it's a smaller instrument that you're transporting on your own, not leaving them in vehicles for a long time, just not only for the climate concerns, whether it's too hot or too cold, but also just theft and that kind of thing. It is state property at the end of the day. So we want to, preserve as many funds as we can to keep the program going. Budgets are tight right now. So if we can, minimize the amount of replacements, or, if something gets damaged beyond repair, then you're looking at, a higher dollar budget number than just keeping it maintained. So those are the big things. As far as handling the actual instruments, another thing, not to pick on the sousaphones, but it's just one that we see a lot, is the removable lead pipes that come off and on the horn. When you're playing the instrument, some people have a tendency to kind of place their hand on the pipe and it moves around. The bracing is pretty stout on those, but we see it every year where we end up doing 4, 5, 6 lead pipe replacements, and those again are anywhere from a $300 to $600 repair that can be kind of pricey, and obviously something that we want to keep it to a minimum. And so just inserting the parts cleanly and easily, and kind of not jamming them in there and pulling them out. Same thing on like saxophone necks or clarinet bodies, flute bodies. When you're putting those together, just being real careful, making sure that they're going on and off straight. You're not, pulling them off to the side or one way or the other, and, inadvertently damaging something or bending apart, that kind of thing. So just, treating the instruments like they're your own, and taking good care of them. Overall, they're in really good shape. A few things that I would also note outside of just general care is that each instrument has its own university ID number on it, and something that's specific to the School of Music. So like sousaphones, for example, will be anywhere from number 1 through 26. So the cases are marked on those. The bodies and the bells are all marked or engraved with those numbers. And then also even it goes down to like the lead pipe, tuning bits, and sometimes in some cases mouthpieces. Most of the mouthpieces are interchangeable, but making sure that instrument goes back in its assigned case is a big deal, because not only for inventory tracking purposes, so like knowing which instrument is checked out to which student, but also for repair history on the instrument. So, if say number 22 gets damaged really, really bad, but it gets put in the wrong case, and then we think it's number 16, well, whoever had number 16 is probably going to take the brunt of that if it's a big damage or something like that. So just making sure, and I know for marching band, I'm not sure obviously how things right now with it being somewhat virtual, but when you've got the entire group there and you've got 26 cases that are all laying open, it's easy to get mixed up. But something that a lot of schools do is maybe just take a piece of painter's tape and just put that on the case with your name on it, and then that way exactly which case, or put a piece of colorful tape on it or a different name tag or whatever. That is a really common thing that we see, where parts get mixed and matched, and not only from a standpoint of, it belongs to that instrument, but also from a playability standpoint, a lot of those parts are specifically fit to that instrument. So saxophone necks are, you might think they're interchangeable, but we actually take the time to specifically fit that neck to the socket it goes into. And same thing for sousaphone lead pipes and, flute head joints and clarinet mouthpieces, all those things, tenon corks are all fit to that specific instrument. So if you're swapping parts back and forth, the instrument's not going to be playing as well as it should, because you're probably going to have some leakage, or it's going to be too tight. And again, you forcing things together generally causes problems. So that's the majority of what we see. Most everything is really well maintained, and that's kind of a thing, is we have a real personal investment in the instruments, having dealt with them for this long, that they're kind of our babies a little bit too. So we can be a little bit personal about it, just because when you take care of something for that long, you want to see it, it's like having an old car or something like that you've put a lot of time and effort into. If it comes in and it's totally smashed beyond repair, it's a little concerning, and it makes you feel not so happy. So yeah, we're just trying to, stretch the budget as much as we can. And also, the longer we can stretch the instruments that we have, the more likelihood there is to get other replacement instruments that we may need for methods class, or for other, in the concert band setting, or percussion instruments or whatever. there's always a need for new equipment. So if we're not having to replace, perfectly capable instruments due to, a damage or something that could have been prevented, that's definitely a plus for the university. We can use those funds in better areas, I think. So, yeah, I think I covered most of it there. Sorry if it was too much, but my dad actually, a little history on that. My dad actually used to do this when he was at ISU. He would go right about this time during checkout time, and he would come and talk to all the section leaders and just kind of give everybody a heads up of some things to think about. A couple other things that just crossed my mind were like stuck mouthpieces. We pull those for free. So don't take pliers to them or that kind of thing. Again, things that can kind of cause problems. Same thing with stuck slides. If you have something really stuck, just bring it in. If you have a repair, the first person to talk to would be Tim Schneider. He can take care of that, and he will facilitate the repair procedure. So either if we come pick it up or he brings it to us, we have a really good relationship there with Tim. So that's the first person to contact outside of directors and section leaders. But I would say your section leader would probably be the first person to contact, and then Tim can handle it from there, and we do our best to expedite repairs to get it in and out. And same in the same vein as not switching parts. If you have a horn that's going in for repair, rather than just grabbing parts from another instrument and putting them on your horn to get by or that kind of thing, just talk to Tim. And a lot of times we have, there may be some spare instruments that you could check out in the meantime while yours is being repaired. And that's a good way to keep things from snowballing. So if it's a little repair that we can fix right away, rather than letting it go and then it turning into, say you have one loose solder spot. Well, if that goes for weeks and weeks, sometimes that will turn into more broken parts or more loose solder spots and things like that, or stuck slides. So we try our best to get to them as quick as we can and get those done. But yeah, Tim is in Cook Hall, and I'm sure you guys are all know him or will be meeting him this week as you check out instruments. He's a good guy, and he'll get that taken care of for you. So yeah, otherwise I think that's the majority of what we see and kind of how things work procedurally for us.
Okay, great. Is there anything else you think we need to know as far as like keys or spit valves or anything like that you see common?
Yeah, so everything when it comes in every year, any brass instrument that comes in, it gets completely disassembled. We do an ultrasonic cleaning, everything gets hand polished. And then when it's reassembled, we oil the valves, we slide grease on all the slides. However, that's something, on the brass side, try and make sure that you're oiling the valves, once a week, or most people do it once before they play every time. But at a minimum, if you could do that on a weekly basis, just to kind of keep things moving. Slide grease, every couple of weeks or once a month, depending on how much you're using them. On the woodwind side, same thing. We do key oil all of the keys and everything like that. However, especially things that are kind of prone in marching band are, the moisture, the condensation, you have sunscreen on your hands or you're sweating or those kind of things. So sometimes those outside forces can cause keys to bind up. They have, steel rod that goes through most of the keys. So if it gets excess moisture in there and gets past the oil barrier, it can cause things to bind. So if that happens, same thing, just bring it into us, let us deal with it. And a lot of times on the woodwind side, Tim will have an extra instrument for you to use and that kind of thing. Some basic maintenance things that you guys could do outside of, just oiling and upkeep. On the woodwind side, if you could pull a swab through the instrument when you're done, those are relatively inexpensive things to do. We recommend a pull-through swab, so one that would usually starts like at the large end of the instrument and kind of works its way through. We don't really care for the push it in and leave it type of swab, what they call like a shove it or whatever they call them these days. The problem with those is that it doesn't really help. It actually makes things worse. If you think about it, if you have, a saxophone tube body that is full of moisture and you just stick this cotton swab in there, it doesn't really wick any of the moisture away. What it typically does is keep the moisture in there, and then it traps it against any of the closed pads. So then you get stickier pads, and especially right now with virus and all these things going, you want to try and wick as much of that out of there. The other nice thing with the pull-through swabs is you can throw those in the washing machine and clean them. And again, if you're using one of those once a week or so, would be, at least once a month, maybe run that through the washing machine and get it cleaned up. Wipe the instruments down when you're done using them. Just microfiber cloth or something like that works well, just to get your fingerprints and things off of there. On the brass side, same thing. There's not really an effective swab that you can use on that, but just emptying your spit valves, getting that out of there. On the brass side, if you have, a water key pad that's not ceiling or whatever. If it's an absolute emergency, you can put some paper in there and tape it. But if you can keep from putting tape on there, because that can affect the finish and it's always kind of gummy and hard to get off of there, what we recommend, and it works well for like broken solder braces and stuff too, is just using a zip tie. That is easy. Just buy a pack of 50 of them for the whole band, and they're $2 or whatever for a whole pack, and then it'll keep the part secure enough to play it or to transport it to get it repaired. But then when it's time to fix it, we just clip it off, and it's nice and easy. So that's something that's a nice kind of quick, easy fix. That's most of the thing. Cleaning your mouthpieces, which a lot of people do anyways, but especially right now. If you can't do that, and I think when we've talked to Tim, actually we've supplied some of these for some of the instruments, is the spritzer that's like a mouthpiece sanitizer spray. Use those as often as you can. They work really well, and they're designed to work on those kind of instruments. Just on the woodwind side of things, hard rubber and plastic can be a little bit more iffy than a regular silver-plated brass mouthpiece. So, spray it on there, wipe it down, whatever the wet period is, leave it on there for whatever it is, 4 or 5 minutes or whatever they recommend, and then wipe it off and get it off of there. Don't saturate it and then put it in the case and let it sit, because it can affect, like the plated finish on a ligature or the key work or things like that. So, but that's a really good, especially right now, is keeping those clean and, trying to eliminate any bacteria or virus buildup that we can on that side. Mostly I would use that spray primarily on the mouthpiece itself. I wouldn't like saturate the instrument with it, because again, sometimes finishes can be affected by that. But in general, that's a good way. If you're going to use just another method to clean the instrument, what we recommend is like a lukewarm water and just a couple of drops of Dawn or any type of dishwashing solution. You don't want to use really hot water or really cold water. Again, on the hard rubber mouthpieces, that can turn them green and all kinds of weird colors. So just kind of stick with a medium lukewarm water and just an old toothbrush, or if you have a mouthpiece scrub brush, those work well too. But yeah, just, kind of general upkeep. Try to not stuff a bunch of stuff in the cases that are going to bump around and bend parts, or especially the larger cases that have a little bit more room. Try and keep things confined. Most of those cases have an interior compartment where you can put your drill charts, if that might all be virtual at this point, but or at least on your phone and that kind of thing. But there were a lot of days where we had flip folders and all the other stuff and liars and things like that. So try and keep those to where they're not going to flop around and dent the horns and that kind of thing. But yeah, overall pretty basic stuff. Just kind of keep up on them. If you've got any questions or anything, we're here to help. We're on Instagram and Facebook and everything, or our website is carlsproband.com. You can email me at travis@carlsproband.com, or give us a call if you need to. Or again, just kind of start with your section leader and then Tim. But if you have any specific repair questions, we're happy to help. And we also do, repairs for a lot of the faculty there and a lot of students outside of marching band, your personal instruments, things like that. We maintain a lot of those for area students. So yeah, if you have any questions about anything else, feel free to holler at us. But yeah, overall, I think that's kind of the gist of it.
Okay, great. You have any particular closing thoughts for us to think about as we move forward?
Yeah, well, first, I think it's cool that you guys are still, kind of trudging forward and making the best of this situation. It's really odd to think of where we're at on everything. My daughter is in second grade, and so she's starting virtual learning on Monday. So we're getting all that set up at home, and same thing, trying to figure out how that's all going to work. So I think it's really cool that we're continuing the tradition here at IC to keep, the Big Red Marching Machine moving, even in these weird times. And I think it's awesome that you guys are doing that and keeping it going, because it's definitely a much needed thing. And I think once we're able to get back to normal, it's going to be more appreciated than it was before, not only by, us as musicians and members of the band and the university, but the outside community too. Just growing up here my whole life and, seeing the marching bands in the parades and at the football games and even, basketball games and things like that. It's a big impact on the community. And, you guys should be proud about what you're doing and what you're creating outside of just your own group of friends and colleagues here at the school, but kind of the bigger impact that it has on the university as a whole and the community. It's a prideful thing to be part of. And so, yeah, just kind of carrying that pride through and how we take care of the instruments and you think of it as kind of your tool to get your job done. So if your tools aren't working, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to get your job done. So the better shape that we take care of these, or the better condition that these instruments stay in, I think the better overall end goal we're going to have here for everybody. So yeah, best of luck this semester, and I really hope that we can get back to it, in the spring, and I hope everything comes back and we're able to kind of get back to some sense of normalcy again. But until then, I look forward to seeing the videos that you guys are going to be doing and kind of keeping up on that end, and I wish everybody the best of luck.
All right. Hey, Travis, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. We look forward to sharing this with the students, and we know that it'll help us this year, and we look forward to continuing to do business with you as well.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yep.